Okay, so what I want to do is move on from Shir Omer, which we've been discussing a lot over the last few weeks. And I want to move to first to a fascinating topic, Yosef and Simcha. It's good to see you, even on Zoom. Again, I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. This will be much better. Okay, so what I want to do is there's a fascinating concept that appears in many places in the Gemara called Ein Maavirin AUDIO-KosherTube. That once you encounter a mitzvah, so you're not supposed to let it slide and come back to it to go to a different mitzvah and the like. And there are a lot of implications to this halacha. It's the base. It's one of the bases for the way we put away our tefillin, as we'll see. Right? If you know that when you put away your tefillin, so you put away your tefillin in such a way that when you take them out, you will hit your arm tefillin and then your head tefillin. The reason is because we don't want you to have to pass over your head tefillin because you're supposed to put on the arm tefillin first. And we don't want you to have to skip over it. Ein Maavirin AUDIO-KosherTube. One of my all-time favorite discussions in halacha is a very famous, relatively famous, anyways, in halachic literature, debate in poskim about what happens if someone's in prison and the prison warden says, you get 1 day a year to go out of prison. So when does he go out? Does he take the first day because now he has an opportunity to fulfill mitzvot? Does he pick Yom Kippur because it's holy? Does he pick Purim because there's a lot of mitzvot? All types of interesting discussions that come up in this context. One of the contexts in which it appears in the Gemara, as we'll see in just a moment, is the cutting of the Omer, and that's why I want to do it now. And what I want to do is understand the concept in general, and I also want to relate it to some other mitzvah principles that seem to be related, such as Rizin Makdim in Lemitzvot, the principle that you're always supposed to do mitzvot as fast as possible, Shehuye mitzvah lo mishahinan, and various concepts in halacha that relate to this principle. And in general, these are pretty broad-ranging issues that I think are worth exploring somewhat. After that, I assume we'll have time. I want to go back to Omer, not Sfira Omer, but the Karban Omer, and specifically the Chadash Yashan issue, the new and old grain issues, which in America, kashrus organizations are less likely to care, or at least to be worried about it. In England, for you, Simcha, the kashrus organizations are much more stringent about Chadash, from what I know, and that's why a lot of the cereals here that are imported from England and not America, because the Rabbanut is much more makbid on Yashan, so things that come in from Europe are more likely to be Yashan than they are in America to be Vada Yashan. So we'll talk about that. So those are the next few topics that I want to cover. So okay, let me share my screen here. Okay, the topic that I want to deal with, though, as I said first, is this question of Ein Maavirin AUDIO-KosherTube. So it appears here in a short passage, the Gemara, if you have your Gemara, but otherwise I copied a few lines, on Samach Daled Amud Bet. And the Gemara tells you, Mitzvat HaOmer Lehavi Min HaKarov. So, as we said, right, Sfirat HaOmer counts from the day that you bring the Karban HaOmer. And the Karban HaOmer is a offering of what grain? You guys remember? Barley, right? It's a barley grain. You bring the first grains of barley, and you bring a mincha, and then on Shavuot you bring the shtei halechem, which is a wheat offering. So part of the mitzvah isn't just bringing it, but part of the mitzvah is to cut the grain. We cut it l'shem mitzvah. So the Mishnah tells you that mitzvat haomer lahavi min hakarov, that when you are bringing the grain, the mitzvah is to bring it from a close place to Yerushalayim. But lo biker akarov LeYerushalayim. Let's say it's time to bring the Omer, and the grain that's closer to Yerushalayim is not ready. So then, miviyin oto michol mako. So this halacha of bringing it from the closer places is not going to prevent you from fulfilling the obligation. So if the only grain you can find is slightly farther from Yerushalayim, so you're allowed to bring it from anywhere. And ma'aseh shabaha omer migagot srifin u'shte'alechem v'garein socher. And then the Mishnah tells you, then in fact this once happened, that they brought the omer from this farther place, gagot srifin, and they brought the shte'alechem from this place called bikat ein socher. So the Gemara then says, my time. Why do we care where you bring the Omer from, right? We already just said that b'diavad, post facto, wherever you bring the grain from, it's fine. So why do we tell you that you should bring it from as close to Yerushalayim as you, or, well, we'll see if that's true, close to Yerushalayim? So the Gemara has two possibilities. I bayit ema mishum Karmel. One possibility is because the grain is described in the psukim as Karmel. Now, what is Karmel? So I gave you here Tosfot, who summarizes position found in many Rishonim, Rashi as well. Rach malay, soft and full. And what does that mean? Right? They darshan it as grain which is soft, meaning fresh. So one possibility is that the grain needs to be fresh, and therefore it's more likely to be fresh and retain its freshness if you bring it from a place that is close to Yerushalayim, rather than if you have to schlep it from farther away from Yerushalayim where it'll dry out. That's possibility one. V'i bayedema, or you could say mishum de Ein Maavirin al hamitzvot. And this is the general principle, like I said, I want to spend quite some time on, is you don't pass over mitzvot. And therefore, if you were to have a field where you could pick the grain, and then you skipped it and went to the next field, so that would be a problem of ma'avirin al hamitzvot. So what I want to do today and maybe tomorrow is understand the first half of this drasha, Karmel, and what differences there might be between Karmel and Ein Maavirin al mitzvot. And then, once we've done that, we can go to this overarching principle of Ein Maavirin al mitzvot as it appears in the rest of Torah. So again, let's start with this first drasha. The first thing the Gemara says is that you're supposed to bring grain from closer to Yerushalayim because it will maintain its Karmel, that it'll be soft and fresh. So if you look at Tosfot, Tosfot says, Takriv, Perush Rach Umalei, Ve'ein ze gorinu mosifin be'emtza teva, deheve kemo shlema shemila shlema. Okay. So he says, what is this drasha? Rach Umalei. Now, what does this exactly mean? So if you look at the Torah Tamima tries to understand how we get to this. He says, Bidrasha Rishona, Rach Umal. It's soft and full. Nir'ed tzarech lomer Rach Umalei, which is what you have in Tosfot. Ratzalomer, Shiu Agarinim Mile'in Umuvshalin Kol Tzarkan. You want the grains to be ripened, fully ripened. Rach Umalei. But Rashi seems to say Mashmad Me'emena Gersa Rach Umal, that it's not Rach Umalei, but it's Rach Umal. What does that mean? So he says Sheperush Mal Milashon Nimlelet Biyad. Rashi says, what is the drasha of Karmel? Why do you need the grain to be from close to Yerushalayim? Because it needs to be that you can, mal is that you can roll it with your fingers, right? Have you ever tried, I don't know if you've ever done this to grain, I don't know if you ever would, right? Where you sort of roll it with your fingers and the chaff falls off and the grain inside comes out. You ever done this? Right, you can do that with wheat, you can do it with barley, you can do it with rice. So he says, and that means it's soft. And he says, "V'itachein dira alenachon lefarech kein mishum de'inyan rachurim layut nechlal b'drasha debei Rabbi Shmuel karmalei shem malei begarin kmo karim uksatot." He says maybe, and again, first I just want to understand this drasha. He said maybe what the drasha is that it's soft and full, like Rabbi Shmuel, that it's like a pillow. Kmo karim uksatot, right? In modern Hebrew, right? Karim uksatot. These are pillows, right? That basically, if the grain is still fresh, it is like a pillow with stuffing. The Iker ha'inyan sharo chazal ledrosh no trikin milot Karmel, and he said essentially this is a abbreviation mishum derov milot shlosh hakodesh sham lo yoter mishalosh otiot, and he explains how you get to that because most, as we know, most shorashim, most roots of words are three letters. Vamila Karmel kula sharshit ba'arba otiota. He says this word is weird because the shoresh is four letters, which is what led Chazal to say that maybe it is really a rashi tevot. It's really a shortening of the words karumal or karumalei. Okay, that's Rashi and Tosfot and the Truma and the Charatimima. If you look at the Piskei Arid, he says mitzvah Omer lavo min halach. You should bring the Omer from the soft grain, from the fresh grain, my taima. I bayedema mishum Karmel takrev, perush, ba'ocha karmala. Exactly as the Torah Tamima said, that while the pillow is still full, shadayin lo yabesh, and it hasn't dried out. V'i bayedema mishum de Ein Maavirin al mitzvot, or because of Ein Maavirin, perush lachazar achar yabesh. You shouldn't go after the dry elam min hakodim limtzohu mevi lolam and he says, maybe it's not just about how close you are to Yerushalayim, but it's even within the field that you take the tips of the field and not the middle, because it's apparently fresher than that which is in the middle. Okay. Now the first question I want to talk about with the Karmel, again, our main focus of the next few days is going to be Ein Maavirin al mitzvah, but first we need to understand the local possibility that this is about Karmel, that this is about the softness of the grain, rather than being about this principle that you shouldn't pass over mitzvot. So the first question we have to ask about that is this a local halacha, which is local to the Karban HaOmer, or is this a rule about all menachot? Meaning, is this rule that you need moist and fresh grain, is this true only of the Karban HaOmer, or do you think that every mincha needs to be soft and fresh? So what would you guess, without knowing anything? What would you guess? Okay, that's fair. So let's look at where it comes from, okay? So here's the pasuk, number 8. V'im takriv minchat bikorim ladonai, aviv kaloi ba'esh geres Karmel, takriv minchat bikorecha. If you bring your minchat bikurim, so right, the spring wheat roasted or etc., then you should bring your mincha. Okay, just 1 second. My kid's just okay. 1 second. Give me just 1 second. Okay. So if you look at this pasuk, does it say the Omer specifically? No. So you could, it's just talking about mincha. So the fact that we learn this rule from this word Karmel in this pasuk, you could have said that this rule that you need moist, fresh grain is true of all menachot, right? All menachot. And what would the logic be, right? I think the logic would just be, look, right? If this is about the freshness and the good, how nice this karban is, so why should that be limited to the Karban Omer? It doesn't make any sense. It should be Aaron. 1 second. Aaron, can you be a little bit quieter? Thank you. Why would it be Mayor? Why would it be limited specifically to the Karban HaOmer? So you could say that maybe this rule just happens to appear by the Karban Omer, but really, look, we want every mincha to be nice and full. Our own. Stop. But we don't want it to be, right? We want everything to be fresh. But as we'll see, there's good reason to believe not that way. So if you look, for example, at example Rashi here on the pasuk, he says, "V'im takriv hareim mash mishamesh b'lashon ki sharein zerishud." He said, first of all, this is an obligation, not optional. Sharei b'minchad ha'omer hakatuv midaber shehi chova, because it's talking about the Omer, which is obligatory. And how does he get the notion that this pasuk is only about the Omer? So he says, Minchat Bikurim, because what does Bikurim mean? It means the first. And he says, Minchat Bikurim, Minchat HaOmer, HaKatuv Midaber, Shiba Aviv, Bishat Bishul Atzvua, because it comes at the beginning of the season. It comes when the grain is starting to ripen. Umin Asorim Hiba, and it comes from barley, specifically. Why? Because barley ripens first, right? It ripens earlier than wheat. So Nemar Kan Aviv and Nemar Lalan Kiasora Aviv. So Chazal really make two moves here. One is that they understand Karmel as meaning that the grain used for the mincha has to be moist and ripe and fresh. And the second thing they learn is that the pasuk is talking about the Omer, the Minchat Bikurim. This is not just any mincha, but it's only the Omer. So if I just stop there, I would say that it would seem that if the rule is about, is from Karmel, so the way Chazal understand it, it's potentially about the Minchat HaOmer and only the Minchat HaOmer. That's what you might have derived from Rashi. If you look at Tosfot in Menachot Pei, though, Tosfot says there, Ein Maavirin B'chol HaMenachot Ka'amrinan. This is a true of all Menachot. Af al gav de zorah kodem lepezach shivim yom. Even though you plant it 7 days before Pesach, I don't want to get into all the details there. Hainu mishum Omer. It's because of the Omer. Da diktani ketzet bodega gizbar machnes yado letocho. So, Omer dafka, if you were only talking with the Omer, should have said that the members of the Beitin, the messengers of the Beitin, were the one cutting it. And even though the end says that the Omer rather than Menachot, the Omer Ein Maavirin. Kach b'menachot yesh lechazer achar hasamuch Yerushalayim. Tosfot here suggests that while it's true of the Omer, it's also true of all menachot. V'teida midiktani u'ma'amer v'dash ba'omer lo sheicha disha. Da'atznan b'kanim v'glachot choftinoko kishlo yitma'ech. And then he says, he backtracks, maybe it's not provable, but he thinks that it's probably both. And here the Yad David notes these two possibilities, whether this halacha that you need the fresh grain closer to Yerushalayim is only about the Omer or is about all menachot. And he says, Ayin lekamon daf pehei, look at Tosfot, the one we just saw, shekatvu b'tchila davagav da menachot mitzvatan lavo min hakarov, right, so he says at first Tosfos thinks this is a rule in all menachot, but then if you look at the end, he notes at the end Tosfos backtracks and he says, I don't think it's true, even though you could read it that way. He goes through a few justifications the Gemara to not read it that way, and he says, you know what, the Gemara never says it. And therefore, lemaskana, right? Tosfot in his Hava Amina seems to think that this rule that you need grain close to Yerushalayim is true of all menachot, of all grain offerings. But later on, Tosfot seems to backtrack on that and think that this is a rule which is local to the Omer. And he says, however, that it could be that, what does this depend on? It could be that it depends on which rule tells us that we need to bring the mincha of the Omer from the grain close to Yerushalayim. Because if you learn it from Karmel, so as we saw, Chazal, as Rashi notes, believe that that pasuk is only talking about the Karban Omer. So therefore, it would be limited to the Karban Omer. But if you think that it's because of Ein Maavirin AUDIO-KosherTube, so that seems to be a much more universal rule, which is that whenever you're involved in a mitzvah, you should never pass over the opportunity to fulfill the mitzvah and look for other opportunities. So it could be that really the question of whether you should always have grain closer to Yerushalayim, whether that's local to the halacha of Karban Omer or that's universal, hangs on the question of whether this is based on the pasuk of Minchat Bikurim, which Chazal understand is limited to the Omer, or whether it comes from Ein Maavirin AUDIO-KosherTube, that you should never miss an opportunity to fulfill a mitzvah, which is a much more generalizable principle. And that's what the Yad David continues to say. He says, "V'hinei vadai im nomar detaimu mishum Karmel zelo shayach el ba'omer." If the reason is Karmel, so that, as Chazal understand it, would seem to be limited to the Omer. Even other special Karban Omer, like the Shtei Alechem, which are the two loaves you bring on Shavuot, it wouldn't apply. Then he said that's what it seems like from Rashi al Torah that we just read, that the pasuk is talking about the Omer, which means it comes to exclude even the special Karban of the bread that you bring on Shavuot. Lama Amar and he said, if that's the case, then why does the Mishnah say as a chidush that once, when they couldn't, they brought the Shtei Alechem from Ein Socher, which sounds like if they had been able to bring the grain for the Shtei Alechem from a closer place, they would have done it, which sounds like the rule is at least generalizable to the Shtei Alechem. So he says, V'tzarach lomar, Dela mishum delechatchila, Ela mishum chidusha naka, Dayutzichin leilech l'merachok, Kedei lavi Shtei Alechem. He says, no, they're just telling you that it once happened, that they had to go really, really far to get it, but they're not telling you that you have to bring it from the closest. But if the rule is we don't like skipping over mitzvot, so yesh lomar dual din b'chol menachot, so then it should be true of all menachot, and definitely for special mitzvot like the Shtei Halechem. That's his first Havamina. So at first the Yad David says that maybe this question of whether the rule is generalizable beyond the Karban Omer hangs on the question of whether the reason that you bring the mincha from the grain closest to Yerushalayim is because of Karmel, which Chazal understand to be talking about the Omer, in which case it's not a generalizable principle, or do you say that if it's about Ein Maavirin AUDIO-KosherTube, so then in fact it's a generalizable rule, and you should always bring all menachot from as close to Yerushalayim as you can. That's his first attempt. But then he rejects this, and he says, no, it could be that even the rule of, yes, okay, one second, it could be, let me just give you the apples and cucumbers. So it could be, then the David goes on and he says, you know what, maybe that's wrong, right? Possibility one, okay, so far what have we seen, right? Possibility one, which was a Havamina in Tosfot, was that even if the drasha is Karmel, that's true of all menachot. All menachot, it's referring to, can be referred to as Karmel. Possibility two is that whether this rule is generalizable beyond Minchat Omer hangs on the question of whether the reason that I bring the grain from the closer fields, Mayor, whether you bring it from the closer fields is because of the pasuk of Karmel, in which case, because Chazal limit that to Karban Omer, the rule would only be true of the Omer. If it's about Ein Maavirin AUDIO-Mitzvot, so then it would be true that all menachot should be brought from as close to Yerushalayim as possible. That's possibility two. That the question of whether it applies to other menachot hangs on the two rules brought in the Gemara. But then the Yad David says that maybe that's not true either. He says maybe even according to Ein Maavirin AUDIO-Mitzvot, that the reason you bring the grain from closer to Yerushalayim is because you don't want to skip over a mitzvah. Maybe even that is limited not only to the Omer, but at least to Minachot Tzibur. And he says, V'nira af l'taima de'ein ma'avirin ala mitzvot, mikol makom hainu dafka b'minchat hatzibur, v'heim shlosha, the three communal Omers, which are the Omer, right, the barley offering that we bring to permit the eating of the new grain for the Omer, the Shtei Alechem, which are the two loaves of bread we bring in Shavuot, the Lechem HaPanim, and the special loaves that are on the Shulchan in the Beit HaMikdash. Why? And his argument is as follows. Because think about it. If Noah wants to bring a karban, he wants to bring a karban mincha, he can bring it from his own grain at home and come to Yerushalayim. But let's say he lives in Haifa. So for him, when he picks the grain in Haifa, there is no benefit to the grain that's closer to Yerushalayim because his obligation isn't centered around Yerushalayim. It's centered about wherever he is, and then he brings it to Yerushalayim. But taking grain from Haifa as far as it is from Yerushalayim, that's not in any way skipping over the mitzvah because that's where he lives. Maybe the Yad David argues that only the karbanot tzibur, which are brought shehemutalin ala beitin Yerushalayim, where the people responsible for it are the high court, who are centered in Yerushalayim. So for them, it would be skipping over Yerushalayim if they went farther to pick the grain because their starting point is Yerushalayim. Vimkein mitzvatan lavim min akarov mishum ein maavirin. Aval b'shar minachot shekol yachid v'yachid mevi, but every other mincha that every person brings, who mevi min akarov lo kodem v'lo min hasamach l'Yerushalayim. You bring the mincha not from what's closer to Yerushalayim, but what's closer to you, where you live. And he says that maybe the rule, therefore, is not really what's closer to Yerushalayim, but what's closer to you. And then it would be true not just of the Omer, but all menachot. And then it would be whoever yours, which is closer to you. But he said the rule of bikur, of it being fresh, that's limited to Yerushalayim, etc. Okay, I'll write this up in a chart. Boys, do you want to go back upstairs? Should I give you something else to watch? Okay, here. What we do for sure, honestly. Okay, here. Okay. Here, take this upstairs. Here, Mayor. Okay, take that upstairs, okay? I'll let our Ezra go up also. Ezra, you want to go up? Go up. Yeah, go up. Upstairs, boys. Hey, go. Okay, so let me draw a chart here. I wish I had a board, but my screen will do as well. So what we have so far is the following. Okay, so make a chart. Let's make a table here. Okay, so Is the reason Karmel or Ein Maavirin? So, will it apply to Omer, all public minachot, or all minachot? Okay? So, according to, if it's from the pasuk of Karmel, so what we have is, according to Tosvot, possibility one is, so one second, okay. Now, according to both, right, this is obviously going to be a yes for the Omer, because that's what the Gemara was saying. Okay? Now, what if it's all menachot? So if it's for Karmel, so Tosfot in answer one, yes. Everyone else, no, because the pasuk is limited to Omer. If it's about Ein Maavirin, so maybe yes, which is Yad David 1, or no, it's closest to the person bringing it, but not closest to Yerushalayim. Now, what about public menachot? So again, maybe, but probably not. But Ein Maavirin, so here the Yad David says, yes, because they are centered in Yerushalayim, and therefore it makes sense to say that it would be considered skipping out on the Omer, on the other karbanot, to go farther for the Shtei HaLechem and the Lechem HaPanim. So those are all the possibilities that we've seen so far. Now, just to go to a few more drashot here. So if you look at the Mizrahi, the Rebbe Elazar Mizrahi, he says Minchat Bikurim Minchat HaOmer HaKatuv Midaber. He notes that again, when it comes to Minchat Bikurim, the Karmel, it seems to be limited to the Omer, which is this box over here. And he says, and he gets that from Torah Kohanim, V'lo yadatim eichu lamdu lo markein. But he said, how did you get to the notion that this is only about the Omer? So he says, Im bavor shiper shua katuv minchat bikurim shiper shua mivukarot shebitfurot. If it's just from the word bikurim, that it's first, v'katuv ba'omer gamkein reishik tzerchem, dilma b'minchat shtei alechem shela tzeret katuv midaber. Maybe that would include not just the Omer, but also the Shtei HaLechem, which are also Bikurim, because there are two things which are first. There's the Omer, which is the first of the wheat, and the Shtei HaLechem, which is the first, the Omer, which is the first of the barley, and the Shtei HaLechem, which is the first of wheat. So he says, V'shema yesh lomar, shemibnei sha'ita kabbalah bi'adam, Rav mipirav ad Moshe Rabbeinu alav hashalom mipiak burai. He said it must be that there's a misora. Omer bamin aseorim. The Omer comes from barley. The kach hayu noagod b'bayit sheni mipi chagay zchariyahu melachi. And that's what they did when the Beit HaMikdash was standing, based on the Nevi'im. K'moshe katav Rambam, as the Rambam says, etc. And he says ki esora aviv malalan sorim afkan seorim. And they just knew. They had a tradition that the aviv, this first grain, is limited to the Omer, which is the first barley, which is the first grain offering, which is brought, period, end of story, each year. And therefore, it is limited only to the Omer, both in the word Bikurim and the word Aviv, that this is what's brought first in the spring, and all the implications of it. And that's why he would limit it, right, only to Omer, and probably not any other public minachot. The Gur Aryeh as well, Sarei Ktiv Minchat Bikurim, V'lo haya Minchat Bikurim Raka Omer, De'ein Lomar Shtei Alechem Degam Hu Nikra Bikurim, right? Don't include the Shtei Alechem as well. even though it's also called Bikurim Dechtiv Lechem Bikurim LaHashem, for two reasons. Chada Deshtei Alechem Solet Behen. First of all, because the Shtei Alechem are made from fine flour, which the Omer is not. It's not made of fine flour, but it's made of flour made from roasted parched grain. And furthermore, the pasuk says that you burn it, which you don't do with the Shtei Alechem, which is eaten by the Kohanim. Okay, let me. Okay, I'm going to skip the Torah Tamima's other drasha here. Let's just go to the Hemek Davar, Adrash Yadua, Amnam Lefi Pshat, Lashon V'im Kamashma'o, Lefi Midbar, Midaber B'chol Parasher Alol B'ol Mo'ech, Midbar, Afal Gav Shlo Yachiyuv Lavi Omer, Mikom Makom Mayabay Yisrael Omer Ba'eretz Yisrael Rishon La'akriv Gamba Midbar, Mishach Yiktiv Im. He notes that it's strange that Chazal did understand about the Omer because the Omer wasn't actually brought at this stage in Jewish history. Vayikra is talking about it in the time of the Mishkan. But he says, in theory, you could have brought it if you had grain from Eretz Yisrael. Okay. So, like I said, going back to our chart, and maybe let me move it down so we can look at it. Let me move it down to where we are. So as we said, right, there are basically three possibilities. One is to say it definitely applies to the Omer, both reasons. Does it apply to all menachot? So probably not. As though in one day in Tosfot it says yes, according to Karmel, that you have to bring it from fresh grain. Does it apply to other menachot? So the Yad David at first says maybe yes, because Ein Maavirin is a universal rule. But then he says maybe not, because it's one thing to say that by the Omer, you bring it from the grain closest to Yerushalayim, but if you were going to apply Ein Maavirin to a regular mincha, it wouldn't be closest to Yerushalayim, it would be closest to the person who himself is bringing the Omer. And what about public menachot? So, if it's about Karmel, so probably not, but possibly. If it's about Ein Maavirin, so then the Yad David says, yeah, that probably should be brought from the grain that's closest to Yerushalayim, because the people responsible to bring it are those who are closest to Yerushalayim, namely the Beit Din. Okay, in the 10 minutes we have left, I want to talk about a few more differences that might come out from this question of whether the reason you bring the Omer from the grain that's closer to Yerushalayim is about it being fresh, or it being Ein Maavirin ala mitzvah, that you don't skip over an opportunity to perform mitzvot. So can you think of any other nafkaminas between those reasons, besides for whether it applies to other karbanot? Yeah, I hear you, yeah. So you do have to wait till the last minute. It has to be the night of, so that's clear, right? Okay, and what else? So it happens, but you have to wait till that night. So, okay, so let me throw out some, and we'll see them in the Achronim. One possibility is that, does it matter if you have a field of fresh grain that's pretty close to Yerushalayim? Do you need to be makbid, get the grain specifically like from the first kernel that you see? So if it's about freshness, the answer is obviously not, right? You bring it from a closer field, close to Yerushalayim, but like, does it matter if it's row 1, row 2? Like, more or less, it's the same freshness. If you think about Ein Maavirin, that you can never give up an opportunity, you hit a mitzvah, you got to do it. So, like we said, this applies by your tefillin, right? You have to take the tefillin which is closest to you, and therefore you pack your tefillin with your arm one first, so that you'll touch the one on the arm, and only then the one on the head. That's talking about millimeters, right? So if it's about Ein Maavirin, so you might actually have to take not just from the closest field, but like the closest row and the closest field as you leave Yerushalayim. But if you think that it's about freshness, it just means it has to be, hey Avi, it just has to be, I think that's who's behind the mask. It just has to be from a close field, but not necessarily the first field you see with the first grain. Another nafkamina. What happens if you already find yourself farther away from Yerushalayim? Right? When the time comes, you happen to be a few miles out of Yerushalayim. So if it's about Ein Maavirin ala mitzvot, so then where should you pick the grain from? Hey Yoshua, where should you pick from? From the first field you happen to hit on your way back to Yerushalayim, even though it's farther from Yerushalayim because you're starting farther out. So you would be skipping a field as you walk towards Yerushalayim. But if it's about Karmel, about being the freshest, so then Dafka, you might wait longer and skip over the first few fields until you get to the last field, which is the one closest to Yerushalayim, even though it's the one farthest from you right now. Right? So those are two nafkaminot. Right? If it's about the freshness, so then it needs to be the closest to Yerushalayim, not the closest to you. If it's about, so therefore, Ein Maavirin would say the first field that you hit, even if you happen to be farther from Yerushalayim, if it's about freshness, it'll be the one closer in. And the second nafkamina is, do I have to be makbid about the first row in the first field that I hit? If it's about Ein Maavirin, possibly. If it's about Karmel, that it's about freshness, as long as it's a close field and it's grain from that field, it doesn't matter to be the first field with the first grain, it's just close, not necessarily closest. So those are two nafkamina that are brought up by the Achronim, and if you just want to look inside, so look at the Sfat Emet. Sfat Emet says, Nira de nafkamina b'hai taima, dafilu kvar avar l'makom rachok. If you already went to a farther place, v'katzar tzarech lachzor v'l'ksor m'makom karov. So if it's about Karmel, so even if you're farther away, come back and get to the closest one to Yerushalayim. Aval mitam de Ein Maavirin, kevin de kvar katzar, adar avamrina b'zein Maavirin. If it's about Ein Maavirin, so then it's the one you hit first, even if that's farther from Yerushalayim. If you look at the Karanora, he says, again, same thing. L'chora nafkamina ben hani treitame im avar v'katzar min achok. What if you already went to the farther place? V'yesh min akarov. If it's Ein Maavirim, so if you already cut from a farther one, so don't go and cut again. You already have grain. Even if you already cut it from the farther one, come back and get it from the closer one. And he says, by the way, and this is something that Daniel was saying, clearly this, you already knew it had to be relatively close because you're supposed to cut it at night of the 16th, so it can't be that far. These rulers are telling you as close as possible to Yerushalayim. Now, just the last source we'll look at today is the Griz. The Griz says, "Hine lechora nafkamina ben hatamim neishluchei beitin b'makom rachok miYerushalayim." He says again, as we've seen, it's possible that the difference would be, what if you're already out of Yerushalayim? Because then Ein Maavirin doesn't apply. If you're already farther away from Yerushalayim, so then Dafka, it doesn't apply because you should take from what's closest to you. And because of Karmel, you should bring from the one that's closer to Yerushalayim. And he says, furthermore, second nafkamina, that Karmel, lo tzarich me'akamom hakarov bioter, right? The second nafkamina, you don't need the closest place. Hamizdan levad yeshir b'davar, Mishum Ein Maavirin ala mitzvot tzarich rishon hapogeya. Again, these are both nafkamina that I said, right? One is, if it's about Karmel, it just needs to be close, not necessarily closest. Ein Maavirin is first row and first field. Second nafkamina is if you're already far away, so then Ein Maavirin means the closest field to you, not the closest field to Yerushalayim. Karmel means the closest to Yerushalayim. But then he says, "Valkarch nira dahaya takana mishum ta'amim elu lavim mekrov Yerushalayim mishumachi nafka min eventem kin lamaisa takana itash yaviu mekrov Yerushalayim v'ulai shnei ta'amim nichonim." But he says there's only a nafkamina if you assume that these rules are mutually exclusive. But it could be that in the end of the day there was a takana to bring it from the closest to Yerushalayim for both reasons. Both because of Karmel and because of Ein Maavirin. And of course, if you think that you need both reasons, then there's not going to be any nafkamina, and you'll always have to bring it from the closest to Yerushalayim. And that's what he thinks from the Rambam, Umashma, that Katav Mitzvato Lavom and Akarov, Lobam and Akarov Mevino Tom Mikol Makom Eretz Yisrael, Umashmi the Rav de Omer Ika Yoter Din Lavom and Akarov Mishar Mitzvot. After Gambahem Ika Din Din Marvin al Mitzvah, Gam Lashon Mishnah Mitzvah Omer Lavim and Akarov, Lachara Maiza Shech Mitzvah Omer. So he says, and that's why it's only the Omer, because it has both rules. Bishlam Mishum time in the Karmel, Zeu Din Mitzvah Omer, al time Din Marvin al Mitzvah Kashev, al Kach Tzarech Lomer Kanal de Travayu Itbu. He says the reason that it's about the Omer is because both rules are true. Om Mishum Dezet Takana Lavim and Akarov. Venira de ha dein mavirin ala mitzvot zeh mishum mitzvah tzira dikab omer v'lo mishum hechsher hava'a v'im den gam b'shar min echad hayad din kain. And then in the last point he says, and why does this mitzvah apply only to Omer? And here I'll end with this. He says the reason it applies to the Omer is because the Omer is the only one where not only is the bringing of the Omer a mitzvah, but the cutting is a mitzvah. He says, by every other mincha, you can't have a mitzvah to cut from the closest grain, because the mitzvah is to bring the Omer. Cutting the grain is only a hechsher mitzvah. It's only a preparation. The reason that this only applies by Omer is because it's the only one that has a mitzvah, not only to bring the Omer, but to cut it. And therefore, there are mitzvah principles that apply even in the cutting, and that's why we care where you bring it from. Okay. So like I said, what I want to do tomorrow is talk about this principle of Ein Maavirin ala mitzvot. The first thing I want to do is, does everyone agree the principle of Ein Maavirin ala mitzvot, which is the last source on this sheet? And then I want you to read through an article by Rav Asher Weiss to try to compare Ein Maavirin ala mitzvot to some other similar rules, like Zrizin Makim la mitzvot, try to do mitzvot as quickly as possible, and the like. And then we're going to get into some of these principles. And like I said, my favorite case of if you're only allowed out of prison one day, which day do you pick? But some other important issues, like do you wait to say Kiddush HaChodesh until Motzei Shabbos? Where does that come from? Why don't you say it the first night you can? Why do we wait till Motzei Shabbos? That is a function of this sugya, and you'll see that there are a lot of interesting and very relevant halachic issues that come out of it. Okay. Hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow, and we will continue shir in person.